Alright, are we live? Yes, we are. Alright. Alright, awesome. We're live, Zach. Let me just get the
What?
link.
You think I was dead?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm alive. Yeah. So one sec, guys. I'm just gonna, advertise this link so we can get, our friends in or all that rubbish. Let me go to Noodle server.
30% of all proceeds will be going to me, right?
No.
You're volunteering. You're volunteering.
Alright, I'll go into company 8 real quick and just announce the live streaming my response to a God of War video on YouTube. By using at everyone, you're about to mention 720 plus people. That just makes me want to do it more. Awesome. Standing ovation. Yo, what's up, chat?
Okay, let's do this.
Let's wait just a couple more minutes for people to come in. We'll give 5 minutes. Basically, what we're going to be doing is, today we're going to be, like I said in the announcement, if you got it from the announcement, we're just going to be responding to a video that a dude named ThunderGod made. I added him on Twitter. I think the video is a little bit poopy with some of the things that he said. I have like notes that I'll make throughout so we're going to go through the video. I'll make notes, then we'll respond to the points that he made throughout the video. Or we could respond when he makes the point very briefly, but I kind of want to discuss the points at the end of the video that he made, which are just goofy. And we'll see what you guys think. It's just all he made a video on was basically who is Kratos' strongest foe, and he thinks Baldur is stronger than Zeus, for example. So we're just going to be responding to that. Yeah, I wouldn't have watched the video because I think the video is absolute shit. So, yeah. But yeah, I sent him a Twitter post and I just said, add me whenever you get the chance, like a day or two ago, and he hasn't added me, probably due to like being busy or whatever. So I just decided to make like a reaction video instead. And this is my good friend Zach. You can shout out hello if you want.
Oh yeah, hi.
Okay, Zach.
Hold on, I was doing something else. Hold on.
Well, maybe you want to stop doing something else. Come watch. We probably won't get that many people in here, but we'll just see how it goes. Respond. You guys are gonna love the.
Are you gonna share your screen?
Oh shit! I probably should share my screen with you, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that real quick. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, I got you.
Can you hear it?
Before you, the people, to visit a topic I'd covered before on my channel. This being the Baldur video I dropped.
Could you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, right there. Alright, I'm pretty sure that's 5 minutes. So we're gonna begin the video, and then we're gonna respond. So we can give our thoughts throughout it and then respond entirely after.
What's going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, and I'm here today before you, the people.
He basically ripped off Seth as well, like his Saiyan video, which was pretty funny. But yeah.
To visit a topic I'd covered before on my channel, this being the Baldur video I dropped, and kind of got into Baldur versus Zeus in that video. Now, that was a video I actually never expected to do as well as it did, to be entirely honest with you. There's definitely a lot of things I could have phrased or, extrapolated on a lot better, as it was super service level. And I honestly didn't think it was going to do that well. So with that being said, I'm going to be going through this matchup once more and discuss who's actually Kratos' strongest foe. Baldur, Zeus, Hermes. It's not Hermes, but we're going to talk about it today. With that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you're new here. Enjoy my content. light my vibe. Hey, yo, let's get into the video. So when discussing this topic, there's a whole lot of he said, she said that people bring up in reference to the game developers discussing this matchup. So we can start with that and move into the actual game lore following. So
This is the first big point that I kind of don't agree with.
Two statements we will bring up when discussing this matchup. That being the statements from Corey Barlog and Bruno Velazquez.
Yeah.
But just Bruno, where they both share somewhat.
Okay, so context is Bruno had made a total of 3 statements about Greek gods versus Norse gods. One was him stating that Hermes is faster than Baldur. Here he's stating that Zeus wins no contest against Baldur. And then there's another statement where he was asked who he thinks is stronger between Zeus and Thor, and Bruno said that being as Zeus is the king of the gods, it's more than likely that he would win, and he thinks a more interesting discussion topic is Zeus versus Odin instead. And then in this extremely fucking vague response, all Corey says is old Kratos without no question, right? So, you know, these two kind of align in the context. They're both giving a very similar response as to who would win. And he goes on in a minute to explain what's it called? The reason as to why he thinks Corey is more valid, but I'll practically debunk that soon.
Conflicting opinions, with Corey stating old Kratos would dust God of War 3 Kratos, no questions, whereas Bruno exclaims Zeus would dust Baldur, no questions. Now, when looking at these statements like such above, it's important to address who holds, more validity when looking at this. And we can see this from both individuals' roles and influence over the God of War franchise. Corey has been a lead animator of God of War 1, game director of God of War 2, game director of God of War 3 for the first 8 months of its development, lead writer for God of War.
They actually scrapped his original progress and Stig Asmussen restarted it, so...
Ghost of Sparta, as well as being the creative director and story writer for God of War 2018. Compare this to Bruno.
Take note that he is a creative director, and in Bruno's repertoire, you basically see he's more a part of the animation team, and he's like lead animator twice, and you'll just see that.
Is much more limited, being a cinematic game animator for God of War.
Cinematic game animator.
2, lead game animator for God.
Lead game animator. There's a difference between lead of animation and lead of game animation, right? Like they could target different things such as like art, visual arts, and so on and so forth.
God of War 3, animator for God of War Ascension.
Yep.
And the animation director for God of
Animation director.
War 2018. Comparing the two, it's very clear Corey is much more involved in the world of these games, whether that be their general lore or just the games as a whole. He's very involved in the process of how these games are made, whereas Bruno's more on the animation side of it. He's just not as involved.
Okay, so...
He's on the side of the people that make the scenes, yeah.
Yeah, so the issue with what he just said is that it's like, he's just a part of the animation team. Well, the animation team is the entirety of the game. It's like... if Corey is the person making the script, and then we have like a choreographer who's actually like developing the scenes and coming up with the choreography and like art of the actual thing that the actors need to act out, I'd personally say that in this context the lead animator has more influence over the flow of the story than the creator, because the creator makes the story, yes, but the issue with the lead of animation is that they make the story around the animation. Right? So they come up with the original concept and script. Then when they start animating it, they need to mold the script around the animation. So if Bruno comes in and says, for example, this doesn't work with the animation that we have planned, I have some concerns about the budgeting, he can actually shut down Corey's entire, schematic. And another thing as well is that the creative director's main job is to provide like a safe and creative environment for the entirety of the dev team, and then they like market and pitch all of these ideas that the creative team comes up with to like different people, right? So actually he's wrong. The lead dev of animation or the lead animator has way more influence over the game and the story than what a creative director would. Because in most instances, the creative director actually has to report to the lead animator. But yeah, go on, Zach.
Also, since you're like comparing statements from two developers that you could say have equal amounts of validity in whatever statements they can give, you would always use the source material first before the statements.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple things you could say to be like, oh well, since Baldur fights a weaker Kratos, all the statements Kratos gives at that time from a perspective of him being weaker than he was before.
Yeah.
So
And
that already lowers Baldur's power
yeah.
compared to when he was in 3.
Not even just that either. It's like I typically don't even use the director statements unless someone brings up like another director statement. Like if someone brings, and you know, he kind of agrees with it later that they can't even really be used as evidence. But my main gripe is him thinking Corey is more valid. That's absolute horseshit. They're equally valid, or if anything, you know, Bruno has more validity than Corey. So that's fine. That's done and done. But when it comes to the actual statements, I never even use them outside of like battling them against another statement. Because similar to how ThunderGod agrees, is that at the end of the day, like Zach said, we go with the source material, and then if the statements happen to support the source material, then I personally think it's fine to have them as supplementary resources at most to better solidify your already concrete point, right? But in the end, the statements are irrelevant. They don't actually matter, right? So we'll continue on, and he kind of says that in a minute as well.
Involved in the creative process and like the overarching story of these games, whether that be the lore, the writing, the abilities, he's just not as involved. You know, you could not to say he's not credible, but
yeah, I really don't know how you think that someone who's actually animating the scenes and creating the concept of the character, like their key visuals, isn't involved in the story more. Whatever.
Yeah, he said he's not involved with their abilities. He's the guy that's animating them. They're telling him what to put on the screen.
Yeah.
Corey Barlog is kind of ridiculous, especially Corey is like, he's generally cited as like the guy for God of War. To be honest, you think God of War?
He isn't the guy for God of War. He actually makes stupid ass statements all the fucking time.
Think Corey Barlog.
Oh my god!
It's very clear that if these two sources were stacked up against each other, Corey's much more of a reliable source. However,
he isn't more reliable.
Follow-up to this is, why do these sources have to be, you know, like mutually exclusive? Why can't they both apply? Well, this kind of gets into like where the actual evidence comes in from the games and such, which we'll get into in a moment. But I will say these Twitter posts should more often than not be supplementary points, in my opinion, to whatever side is just shown consistently more powerful or has the most evidence towards. I don't believe you should change the whole narrative just because of a tweet from a developer who, in all honesty, could have dropped the answer while taking a shit. We will use them, however,
100%.
and this is where the game/lore/feats come back to us to whichever interpretation is more sound.
Yep.
Now, Zeus is pretty self-explanatory in terms of strength, being stated superior to Hades and Poseidon via novelization.
One thing, okay, I was talking to Zach prior as well, is that for some reason he doesn't include the Blade of Olympus as being a part of Zeus's standard battle equipment at all, and only really includes his magic, which I found to be utterly, like, that's ridiculous, right? Because
most of Zeus's appearances in the game has him with the Blade of Olympus.
yeah, like the whole fight at the end of God of War 2 is that he steals the blade from you and uses it against you. He literally kills Kratos with it, and you know, it's a little factor. I don't think it contributes much to whether or not it's a standard equipment, but the motherfucker had it for over 1,000 years, and he literally created it. So I feel that the Blade of Olympus should be in Zeus's standard equipment repertoire, right? That's just me personally, but that's what I think, right? So, you guys can tell me that. And the issue as to why I bring this up is because he explained... I'll actually let him explain it first before I start on that.
Statements along with interviews with Corey Barlog stating he's the strongest on Olympus. This is all very common knowledge. This paired with the feat of him going toe-to-toe with a stronger Kratos.
Yeah, mightiest of all the Olympians. Because the Olympian gods rule by might, which means physical force. So it makes sense that Zeus is the mightiest because he is just the strongest.
The one that fought everybody else. Pretty self-explanatory. Fights God of War 3 Kratos along with defeating the Titans, including his father, Kronos, the creator of time itself. Now, not to brush past Zeus, who has a pretty extensive arsenal, which I'll touch on in a bit, but a lot of discussion depends on how you digest a lot of lore surrounding older Kratos, which we already touched on briefly with dev statements, but now let's go a little deeper. Older Kratos fights Baldur, and in their first confrontation, Baldur is shown being a match for this older Kratos, said to have power.
Yeah, so the issue with this statement right here is that, like, a few lines after this, when Kratos drops the monolith on Baldur, he's surprised that Immortal is capable of surviving from the damage that it would take to push that onto him, right? So the issue with this is like, let's say I'm a basketball player, and in this instance, the basketball player would be Kratos, and then the soccer player would be Baldur. And let's say the soccer player does like this really good kick that, like, you know, shoots past the basketball player, and then the basketball player goes, wow, no previous basketball player would have been capable of, like, reacting to that, or, you know, they should have been able to. What we can gather from that context is that Kratos is saying, right, all previous mortals would be weaker than who he is assuming to be a mortal at this current point. And since we actually have direct lore implications that Kratos got astronomically weaker after God of War 3 through not only losing hope, but losing all of his amps, his equipment, and even in the River Styx, we know that the River Styx is capable of draining his blades of Athena, and we know that he no longer has the magic such as the Kronos' rage or Poseidon's rage or whatever, like all these things that give him like a physical amp, plus he lost Hades' soul, which was another physical amp. It's just heavily insinuated and proven that Kratos is just astronomically weaker than what he is. And if we take into the context that Baldur is stronger than all other mortals that he's fought, at bare minimum, Baldur is like above the Hydra. So God of War 1 Kratos probably struggles with God of War 2018 Kratos. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Zach, before I continue the video?
I was going to say something like that, too, that if you think Baldur would be hard-pressed to take, I would say, the top four, or no, top three, Ares, Hades, or Poseidon, there's no way he'll be able to fight Zeus, because Zeus is able to one-shot all other gods in his pantheon.
Yeah, there was a statement when Hermes was like running by Zeus. He like pissed him off in the novel for 2 or something, and it was stated that like the lightning bolt was going to vaporize him. And in like the final fight of God of War 2, when Kratos is fighting Zeus, Kratos is thinking, "Shit! If I get hit by his lightning bolt, I'm gonna fucking die." So,
yeah, that's another argument. Zeus saying how you could probably argue that Zeus's lightning bolt scales above him, because in that moment, like, Kratos was doing some damage to Zeus, but that lightning bolt could have killed him if it hit him.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that also helps prove that Kratos in God of War 3 got so much stronger with Hades' soul that he was capable of like going from being weaker than Zeus in God of War 2 at the end of God of War 2 to being like relative to stronger than him at the end of God of War 3.
Yeah, throughout that whole fight, they were pretty much equal.
Yeah.
Surpassing anything Kratos encountered in his previous life. Sure, alright.
By the way, guys, I'll read and respond to the comments after I finish with the video.
This is referring to his ability not to feel pain. Okay, I will give you this, viewer. We do know that in this fight, Baldur is said to have physical strength said to be overwhelming Kratos at
Yeah, so he has physical strength that can overwhelm someone who's weaker than God of War 1 Kratos, that's fine.
points during the fight, consistent with the game as they literally split land pushing off each other. Now, let's say I downplay real quick for you people.
Also, the main point that I want to make as well is that you can't prove that this Kratos is stronger than any version of Kratos with the Blade of Olympus, right? So if you wanted to say, at most, he would be base God of War 2 Kratos level. That's how strong this Kratos is. Taking into consideration that he's rusty at the beginning of the game and whatnot, he'd be weaker at the beginning of the game. And then there's actually a statement as well for the official promotion of the game on the PlayStation website that Kratos is attempting to regain his like reopen and reobtain his dormant power. We obviously know that's not referencing hope because he only has a sliver of a portion of it left. And we know that he's rusty, so the context would indicate that throughout the game, he's progressively becoming more of what he was. And since we've established what he would be like a base God of War 2 Kratos, he would still be weaker than Kratos with the Blade of Olympus, for example, or Kratos with Kronos' Rage, or Kratos with Poseidon's Rage, or any of that, or even Hades' Soul. So he's still weaker.
Let's say Kratos hadn't used his god powers in decades/centuries.
115 years he hasn't.
Sure. Let's say he didn't go all out.
That's how rusty he is. He's 115 years rusty.
Because Atreus was present/in the area. Right. Let's say I grant you these variables. They are irrelevant as Baldur minks with Kratos numerous times throughout the entire
They're not irrelevant. It just means that Kratos is progressively getting better throughout the game.
With Kratos upgrading his weapons/gaining new
He doesn't canonically upgrade his equipment. That's actually explained within the novel.
axes, along with Atreus himself growing stronger throughout the game as well.
Yeah, so this is just like a confidence thing for Atreus, where like in moments where like you're faced with a very difficult situation, you can muster up the strength to overcome the odds. That's how like there was like a recent study done or example where like a man had his baby like under a car, and he was so worried for his child that in the heat of the moment he was capable of lifting the car, but like shattered all his teeth while doing it. So that could just be an instance like this where they're trying to like break the ice and whatnot.
As well as eventually becoming useful in their confrontation. If you need any more evidence, Baldur was still boxing with Kratos after losing his ability not to feel. So his strength...
We know Baldur is stronger at the end of the game as well. He's more enthused and he's just more excited. So he would be putting more energy into his punches. So it only makes sense that Baldur got stronger as well, or is using more of his strength. Because he's actually really, really lazy when he doesn't have his immortality, because it's stated in the novel for 4 at the very end that his like during this scene like right here he's basically explaining in his mind that he needs to like adapt and come up with a brand new fighting style because he's actually at risk of death now, whereas before he could just like let Kratos hit him with the Leviathan axe or the Blades of Chaos, right? So it does just make sense for Baldur to get stronger as well.
On top of his hacks is what makes him so strong. It's not simply the fact that he can't feel pain. He's literally physically on par with Kratos. Now the evidence provided
hacks.
Yeah. So his strength on top of his hacks.
Ice and light. Yeah, real powerful.
Yeah, he can throw, literally all he can do is throw like fireballs and light balls. Like, cool. Awesome. Zeus has a lightning bolt that can vaporize someone like relative to him. That's cool.
Losing his ability not to feel. So his strength on top of his hacks is what makes him so strong. It's not simply the fact that he can't feel pain. He's literally physically on par with Kratos. Now the evidence provided
on par, whatever. That's fine.
Does seem to point to Baldur being the superior. But where
they look very on par right there.
This is from the novelization of God of War 2018, written by J.M. Barlog.
So on par that Atreus kicks his ass.
Yeah, Atreus is literally capable of doing so much damage to the point where he's actually a viable ally for Kratos.
Barlog. Now, J.M. Barlog had worked closely with Corey when writing this novelization, so it's not like there's some major liberties being taken here. Corey is very involved in the process of this novel. It's very likely these statements were put in here by Corey for a reason. J.M. Barlog even collaborating on God of War 2 back in 2006, so he's no stranger to the God of War franchise either. So just a heads up on that. The evidence does point to Baldur being...
Also, it's an official God of War product.
Yeah. Take note that in this gameplay as well, Zeus shows his ability to create like clones of himself from his lightning that are like roughly relative to him too. So keep that in mind for Zeus's hacks, plus the Blade of Olympus.
Zeus, when he's cursed, coupled with his strength, superior to Kratos. Again, we covered that. If you don't like the initial confrontation,
there's the clone there
multiple times throughout the game. And this is via feats, statements, and dev interpretations, especially true.
So dev interpretation's actually better. So like it seems like he's nitpicking the dev interpretation because his narrative that he's providing is just blatantly wrong within the context of the source material. So it's more likely that Bruno is correct in this instance. Like even if I agreed that like Bruno didn't have as much influence over the story, that doesn't really matter. He can still be capable of being more correct than Corey, right? And if it's aligned with the story, we would obviously take the more correct interpretation, which would be Bruno in this instance.
Barlog to be a reputable source with all the evidence following suit. Now, let's say Baldur's physically stronger than Zeus, with Baldur not being able to be harmed by any...
He isn't, but sure, continue with your point.
...threats, physical or magical. Does that mean Zeus actually can't take him down? Let's look at some of the hacks that Zeus may potentially have. Zeus himself actually is insane being able to manipulate the
Don't show fear, Zeus.
concept of fear and stealing away in Pandora's box. Fear being
Concept of fear, hell.
everything in the verse.
Literal concept, yeah.
Even the
Concept of
primordials
fear and Zeus, I would consider two separate beings.
Yeah, it's kind of like his. I know some dev explained it as like they are separate. Like that's meant to be his spirit mixed with the concept, right? So it's like a physical embodiment of the conceptual nature of fear, right? And it's obviously capable of manipulating.
Yeah, I always pictured it as fear possessing Zeus.
Yeah,
Just pupping around his body.
Yeah, but that right there is actually fear. Because, like, the black smoke is fear, and that black smoke is creating this form of Zeus, right?
I don't know why he went straight into fear Zeus.
Yeah,
so
fear.
weird.
Okay, so he explains it, but the issue is that we know nothing about Baldur's immortality, so you can't definitively state that if we were to chop off his head. Because like even when he does have his immortality, Kratos is still capable of piercing him with his blades and whatnot, right? So, invulnerability to all things physical or magical, blah blah blah. We obviously know that it's to the point where even with his immortality, physical objects are actually capable of piercing his skin, right? So, such as Atreus' arrows and whatnot. So, if we say Zeus just cuts off his head and throws it infinitely far to the left, and then throws his body infinitely far to the right, what's going to happen?
Yeah, like I think people overplay Baldur's immortality as him actually being invulnerable, but you see him get hurt multiple times. If Zeus was able to just stab him with the blade of Olympus,
He'd
drain
probably
all his godly
drain his
powers.
immortality.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing with fear. Does Baldur have any resistances against conceptual erasure?
Erasure.
Erasure?
Yeah. Does he have any resistance against existence erasure? No.
Yeah.
So he's an entirely physical being with like resistance to physical like manipulation, I guess. But even if I were to say Zeus couldn't do any of that with the blade of Olympus, he'd just erase him conceptually, or he would erase his existence with existence erasure.
He could seal him.
He could seal him as well. He could BFR him with the blade of Olympus as well.
That means Zeus
Exactly. He could use the gauntlet of Zeus, his gauntlet, to seal him away, like he did to the Titans.
Yeah, he'd probably just blitz Baldur as well, so
take him down. Let's look at some of the hacks that Zeus may potentially have. Zeus himself actually is insane being able to manipulate the concept of fear and sealing it away in Pandora's box. Fear being far superior to nearly everything in the verse, even the primordials, who are abstract concepts that predate reality itself.
Okay.
An example being the concept of
the concept of
abstract concepts that predate reality itself.
Time.
An example being the concept of time being
whatever
later on by
whatever.
Zeus
That's
also
whatever.
displays a plethora of hacks such as
Where's the concept of space at?
You mean Uranus?
Oh boy.
Kronos killed Uranus out of Ursula, I don't know.
Hey, I'm with it.
Yeah, it's like disable enemy magics. If you consider like Baldur's immortality to be like a magical thing, his electricity magic may just like turn off his immortality.
To rip out the souls of one of his worshippers and
that's actually crazy. This has a lot of hacks. He could the thing that Freya was doing to the dead giant, maybe Zeus could do it do that to the giant, and just make a.
He could just
So
like
many
imbue
hacks.
it with electricity, right, and just like revive it.
Exactly.
soul manipulation, being able to rip out the souls of one of his worshippers and send it directly to the underworld.
Wait, so he says that Zeus is capable of ripping out someone's soul. What the fuck is Baldur gonna do against that?
Being able to rip out the souls.
Because invulnerable to all physical threats, spiritual isn't a physical thing. So if he's ripping out his soul, oh, this is where he says that dumb shit about like hacks relating to physical strength.
Worshippers and send it directly to the underworld, or maybe power nullification shown by his champions who are yielding a fraction of his power, who can nullify magical abilities with lightning strikes. Zeus has a lot going on, and I'm going to hold off on the Fear Zeus stuff in a moment. But a lot of this discussion turns towards God of War 3 Kratos versus God of War 2018, with the former version having many more hacks in his arsenal, with the latter seemingly being superior at the very least in terms of physical might. Now, the question becomes if any of Zeus's hacks would actually work on Baldur.
They would.
The way I interpret, God of War with their hacks is that it more so works on opponents below you or relative.
Incorrect. The only example of that is through soul stealing, right? And that's specifically with Hades, where it's shown to be a physical tug of war with tugging someone's soul out.
In terms of power, if Zeus would be able to...
There are literally no other examples in the series that would indicate that.
To use all of these insane
like, whatchamacallit? If you want to base your whole assumption on how the hacks work in God of War, I could just say, oh, the Sisters of Fate control the fates of all the gods, including Zeus. Does that mean hacks bypass physical strength?
Yeah.
Case-by-case basis.
He would have against Kratos in all their bouts, similar to how Hades has a tug of war with Kratos.
His only ever example of it being physical.
Kratos and the Titans, instead of simply ripping their souls out with no difficulty. So it seems to be like what's consistently shown. Baldur himself is somewhat vague on like how much, the limits of his curse.
So we don't, since there's not much information on the limits, we can't assume the limits. We only like use what we're shown. And since he's never shown to be capable of like resisting soul-based attacks or anything of the like, we wouldn't say he could resist it.
Extensive they are.
I'm also pretty sure Zeus is a better combatant than Baldur. Like, Baldur just kind of spurgs a little bit.
We know he was able to take magic.
Because earlier you were even saying how lazy he was with his immortality, and like him losing that really pushed him in his final fight with Kratos. But yeah. Zeus has been top dog for 1,000+ years, defending his position.
Yep.
Limits of his curse, how extensive they are. We know he was able to take magic attacks from Kratos and Atreus, even in their final bout when he lost his curse. So he's
literally getting beat up by a kid, bro.
Just durable in general. But
bro, he gets kicked in the fucking face. It's the funniest shit.
Take the Leviathan axe, stated to be an equal to Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Specifically made to be such. Going further than that, he's also shown to be able to withstand, even when losing his curse, the Blades of Chaos, said to be far stronger than Mjolnir and Leviathan Axe. These same blades also arguably retaining their powers from the last game are also upgraded again in this game.
So the most ridiculous comment he made right there is that the Blades of Chaos retain its power from the past game. I'm not sure if you know, but the Blades of Chaos and the Blades of Athena are two separate blades, right? The Blades of Exile are an upgraded version of the Blades of Athena, not the Blades of Chaos. So no, they do not retain any of the strength at all from God of War 2 or 3. Unless he just means God of War 1, that's fine, whatever. But no, Kratos actually states at the end of the God of War 1 novel that the Blades of Athena are actually far more powerful than the Blades of Chaos. So that's not even an argument.
The Blades of Chaos being weapons capable of harming, along with Kratos just punching Zeus in general. Neither of these options, the Blades of Chaos or physical might, being able to do any real significant damage to Baldur, even when he
never does any damage because he's invulnerable. But remember that one scene where he literally stabs him in the gut? Yeah, actually, no, I'll get it. Kratos versus Baldur.
That's no harm to Baldur.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah, it's this scene, like, right here. Yeah, what's this? Fucking impales him, bro. Are you seeing this, Zach? We should have used that face for the thumbnail.
That looked like it hurt.
Yeah, that looks like it hurts, because he's feeling that. He yeets him. Yeah, Frey's a bitch, but whatever.
When he lost his curse, it's not like he's getting like one-shotted by these weapons. It takes a lot.
He hasn't done much research.
out for him to eventually lose the fight. So his feats aren't hyper-specific. It's hard to see how base Zeus could take him out unless you made some argument one of his hexes could potentially take out Baldur.
It's hard to see how base Zeus would take him out, huh? Oh boy. Okay. I'll come up with numerous win cons for Zeus.
But that is a bit too ambiguous. Even Brock in the game has the ability to sense foreign magic, so I mean, nothing even Zeus has should be some outlandish concept to anybody in the North region.
But that's just a Brock thing.
Yeah, so
and that was only
Brock only ever sensed foreign magic when he came into contact with the Blades of Chaos. It is never said anywhere, you're being dishonest by the way, it is never said anywhere that he could sense foreign magic from a pantheon away. And since we know pantheons are like closed off as dimensional borders to different universes, there is nothing that suggests that. That's just you blatantly being dishonest. And actually, Brock thinks that the magic of the Blades of Chaos, like, are ridiculously powerful. Like, he literally, like, you know, pardon my, pardon my scenery, but Brock basically came in his pants, right, when he touched the Blades of Chaos, right? So something such as Zeus's lightning bolt, which can vaporize and incinerate the blades of Athena, yes, they would utterly decimate Baldur.
This is another thing with making assumptions. Like, Brock is a blacksmith who specializes in magical weapons. Blades of Chaos is a magical weapon. He's obviously able to sense how the magic isn't like anything that he's familiar with.
Yeah.
But applying such an ability to Baldur, who we've never seen do that, would be, like, very weird to do.
It would be weird. It would be, what's the word? Intellectually dishonest. So, I mean, if you want to be like a rat, then be a rat, I guess.
Oh, Lord, don't go there. There's no point.
The same tier at the very least, but a bit ambiguous.
So Thor, what's his name again?
ThunderGod?
So ThunderGod, if you're done watching this video, come debate me. It will be fun. Calling him a rat and shit.
I mean, I'm obviously capable of being civil, so
that should be some outlandish concept.
I just think that it's utterly ridiculous to say these things when, like, because I assume he did research for this video, and like, I just can't see it as a way of like not knowing, because if you've done research into the series, you should know the answers to these questions, right? Like, Zek's probably only played here like 2 of the games, and he's probably heard me rant about God of War like maybe 30 times, right? Yet he knows more than ThunderGod here. Like, I find it ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's baffling. I like, maybe I'm wrong and he's not ratting. Maybe that was a little bit too drastic of me. Maybe he's being unintentionally dishonest, but some of these things are just utterly ridiculous with what he's saying. Yeah, those are my thoughts, but we'll finish up the rest of this video.
In the North region, if they're able to sense the magic, it should be in the same tier at the very least, but a bit ambiguous. Now,
what does that even mean?
Zeus is a superior to Baldur. I believe that's an acceptable take, as this Zeus literally sapped out every ounce of power from
This is Zeus conceptually erasing Kratos right here.
Kratos' body, regardless of all the amps he attained throughout his journey in God of War, along with it taking the power of hope unleashed in Kratos to defeat him. So you can make a potential argument simply due to this.
Yeah, Power of Hope is arguably infinitely stronger than base Kratos in God of War 3, if not beyond infinitely stronger.
Same to Baldur.
Exactly. It's the whole like problem with this type of video when comparing Norse gods to the Olympian gods is they're going up against a Kratos that's arguably infinitely weaker than God of War 3 Kratos.
At least Hope Kratos, yeah.
So it's like,
somehow prove
yeah, I guess they're strong, but
similar to Kratos. And despite the idea that Baldur might be immune to it, like even the concept of death as noted by Freya, we can reasonably only make.
Why are
When
you
is it
trying to
stated
argue
that
that
Baldur
he
is
might-
invulnerable to the concept of death? What?
I know, right? He's immune.
So many leaps in judgment for Baldur being immune to all.
Bruh, since that concept
So-
of fear came out, they're gonna use concept for everything.
Top it up, base to base, Zeus really shouldn't be able to do anything to Baldur via in-game evidence, character statements, dev statements, etc. Whereas fear Zeus is much more of a debatable concept.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat what he just said. It's been shown in-game and through director statements and through lore that Zeus would utterly ruffle stomp on Baldur, that he would make him cry and, like, beg for Zeus to take his cock out of his throat. That's how it would go, right? That's how it would be. He would be on top of Baldur with the Blade of Olympus, draining his life energy, right? And Baldur would be basically Kratos from God of War 2 at the beginning of the game. So, this video's done. I'm not going to do this video today, but there is another video that I want to go over, and that is his... Where is it? Yeah, this one right here. He does a video right here about ranking all of the gods from weakest to strongest. So,
he does Naruto.
Yeah, he does a lot of Naruto. He does some Dragon Ball too.
Silver. Oh,
Wait, what?
Never mind.
Oh, Cell vs Sasuke. Yeah. Anakin vs Galen. Yeah, but I'll probably be doing another stream for this video right here. And we'll basically be discussing that. But for now, I'm just gonna, answer some of your not that one. That one. There we go. Now I'll basically just be answering some of your questions, if there are any. Yeah, that's the end of that video. All right, let's take a look. Good timing for this, yeah. Baldur got destroyed by old Kratos because old Kratos decided to loosen up a little lol. God of War 3 Kratos need all the power of the gods, titans, top demigods, top mythical creatures, and some of Zeus's. Okay. The thing about Corey's statement is that it only confirms that Kratos is physically superior in God of War to his younger self, if not holding back, which he was. Yeah, I mean, if you want to use Corey's statement, sure, but it's not backed up with the source material. So, Kratos, your response to people who say God of War 4 Kratos got infinitely stronger than his younger self, which means he doesn't need his old hacks to defeat the Norse gods like he did with the Olympians. Another thing people say is Baldur being immortal is irrelevant because the novel says he has superior strength. Yeah, so the issue with that is that the superior strength statement would be relating to a Kratos who is only God of War 1 Kratos level. So, it doesn't matter. Zeus getting scaled with the blade in such a scenario is even more acceptable than Thor with Mjolnir, which is just created by the dwarves, while Zeus created the blade with his own blood/power. Hermes is just an Olympian servant. Zeus could even vaporize Athena with one bolt and Hades with the Blade of Olympus. Well, the thing is that, like, in the novel for 2, Poseidon and Hades are, like, shit-talking Zeus, and the instant he, like, grabs a tiny bolt, they cuck down immediately. They're, like, terrified of the blade, right? So, like...
It's funny, too,
yeah.
how that is, because from Ares, the strength difference between Ares and Poseidon is so big, where Ares, when he starts talking shit, as soon as Poseidon is like, oh, you better watch your mouth, Ares like, okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Uncle,
But
sorry, Uncle Sama,
Yeah, it's the same difference with Zeus and anyone else in the Olympian pantheon.
Yeah, like if you think that Poseidon could just crunch his hand and kill Ares, then Zeus would be capable of doing the exact same thing to Poseidon and Hades. Like, that's just how different they are in strength.
Yeah, like, it's my only problem with Gaia in God of War is I don't know what was going through her mind when she thought she could beat
Zeus and Kratos at the end of 3. Yeah, I don't know why she think Kratos, because we know Gaia is weaker than Kronos, because Atlas is stated to be the strongest Titan, and then Kronos a close second, right? So that means that Gaia is weaker than Kronos, yet previously in the game, Kratos killed Kronos and, like, overpowered his grip when he, like, clapped his hands together. So I don't know what... I agree, I don't know what the fuck Gaia was thinking.
She was struggling against Poseidon.
Okay, listen, struggling is a term that indicates that, like, you're kind of doing something, right? She was not doing anything to Poseidon. She at 3 points in the fight, she got knocked out on the side of Mount Olympus when Kratos was keeping her alive. So, yeah, she was.
Kratos, help me!
Yeah. 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 Even Percy. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's the main thing with that. It's a bit iffy. I will be keeping the stream up on the channel if other people want to watch it as well, by the way, or respond. If you want to link to the Discord chat to further discuss it with me, I'll link that in the description as well. Yeah, other than that, is there anything else you want to go over, Zach, or talk about before you stop streaming?
Hopefully the next video you upload is a debate between you and him.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, to ThunderGod, I really hope you see this video and want to debate me on it, because I feel like that'll be more constructive to have a voice chat rather than responding to videos. Because I think I don't mind responding to a video like once, but when it gets to twice, it's just, you know, I'd rather have a direct confrontation than responding to what you say in a video, so you have time to defend yourself and whatnot. But now that we've established like a response from me to you, send me that friend request that you said you would do, and we can have a discussion in voice chat. I'll record it, post it on my YouTube channel, and we'll have some fun. Yeah, is that all, Zach?
Yeah, that's all.
All right. I'll see you guys in the next video.